So in this episode, I wanted to talk to you about a space that you might hunger for if you clicked on this video, which is called a subspace. So in the world of BDSM, a subspace is a space of profound surrender and submission. And it's the freedom that comes with no longer having to make any decisions, being essentially in full submission to somebody else's direction, somebody else's power, somebody else's impulses and consciousness in a way. And so subspace can be so delicious, especially for those of us who are tired of being in our minds all day, of decision fatigue, of feeling responsible for things. It can be so incredibly soul nourishing to essentially surrender everything. So this video is for those of you who desire this, but maybe haven't given yourself full permission yet to explore it, or maybe didn't even know that it was possible. So something about subspace is you need a dom. You need a dominant who can hold that space for your submission. And I think one of the most important things to understand about choosing a dom, maybe you have a partner who's curious about this, maybe it's someone who's professional, maybe it's a lover, is you want to make absolute certain that this person is trustworthy, that this person knows how to hold a deep space of integrity, and more than anything, that they're interested in you being in subspace, right? A really excellent dom is going to be of profound service to your experience. So you want your dom to know how of service they are to your subspace, right? They're not just on a power trip that is unconscious, right? They're not just here to make you do whatever they feel. They're very interested in your well-being and you having the kind of experience that you most deeply, deeply desire. Now, a couple of things to consider is how do you want to be brought into submission? What are your fantasies? What turns you on, right? And this is where you can start to really understand more of what BDSM is all about. Would it be rope bondage, rope play, shibari, a type of rope bondage that can be explored, where you're actually physically bound as a way to find your submission? Do you want to find your submission through psychological play, where you are so controlled, so dominated, so led that you eventually surrender your psychological control and enter very, very deep into subspace? You can even be interested in really deep healing in subspace, healing layers of control, layers of fear. And so it can be really fascinating to want to play in a realm where you're almost forced. Other people find things like being humiliated, shamed, or pushed into things that they ordinarily wouldn't want to do really, really, really powerful for entering subspace. This is playing even more with the kink side, the parts of our society that we consider taboo or shadowy, that most people would be like, I would never want to be humiliated. I would never want to be shamed. And yet there can be something so empowering in conscientiously claiming that space, wanting to step into it, wanting to experience it, making it conscious rather than unconscious. So if you think about it, you could spend your entire life playing out unworthiness or shaming yourself or humiliating yourself. When you make the unfelt things felt, which can be one of the most powerful aspects of BDSM, you're essentially taking control of your destiny. What might have unconsciously controlled you before now becomes something that you consciously play with instead in these highly erotic and sexually charged spaces. So one thing that is amazing about BDSM space is it requires a deep articulation of your desires, of your boundaries, of what you consent to and do not consent to, about what your full ability is to say yes, no, or maybe inside of the space. And so some of you will be so into BDSM experiences, but I literally think at least playing in this space a little bit is beneficial for everybody because it teaches you to deeply articulate what you desire and to own your boundaries from start to finish in a way that no other sexual space invites you to in quite the same way. So if you're going to set up the space, what's very important to do is honestly read some books with your partner. So we've linked some great resources down below so that you're really starting to educate yourself. Maybe even consider taking a workshop, getting some guidance, and then really starting to discuss what is it that you want to experience together? What does the dominant amongst you want to experience? And what does the sub want to experience? And really articulating what turns you on about that. What kind of playscapes do you want to create together? And then really conscientiously setting a space where you get to explore step by step what will most deeply bring you into submission and the most powerful of surrender. Now, one of the reasons why a safe word is always important in BDSM is because a safe word allows you to play with non-consent consensually, right? So if you're playing with some of those more shadowy edges, maybe you say, no, I don't want to be humiliated. No, I don't want to give up that barrier of fear within me. And you want no to be part of your play, then you have a safe word. So you can say red, for instance, if you absolutely want it to stop. So no doesn't mean stop, but red actually does. And so that's the reason why you want to have a safe word, is so if you're playing in these spaces, you can say no and not have the no honored, but you still have a word that absolutely every time gives you a very strong boundary. And having strong boundaries, knowing what works for you and what doesn't, is so essential to having a safe play space. So it's very important to practice aftercare. That means when you dive into these deep psychological waters, you're taking care of each other afterwards. And sometimes this can look like the sub being of service to the dom, because in a way, in this play exchange, the dom has been in profound and deep service to the sub all along. But it's important that both end up feeling resourced, taken care of, and met in their needs so that they can heal, integrate, and process whatever arose in the play space together. So this is a spectacular way to explore what many of our souls hunger for, which is total submission, right? It's a profound state of beingness that's difficult to describe, but which I think every person needs to experience regularly, honestly, to be in peak health and to be in peak integration, because this ability to let go fully heals and restores us on some of the deepest levels. Additionally, learning to experience this kind of surrender through subspace starts to impact everything that you do, so you're more able to surrender in dance or ordinary everyday sexuality or your life generally. It's a powerful, powerful teacher of how to work with the direction of the universe in some of the most powerful ways. So one of the keys to getting into a very profound state of surrender and even working with submission states is actually breath work, because breath work takes down everyday cortical control and allows you to surrender more deeply to your world of sensation and emotion without regulating everything that you do or feel all the time, as is what can happen when you're in more of your prefrontal cortex. So breath work as a training allows you to get out of that level of control more into how much you feel and how much you can surrender. So if you want to start bringing breathwork into your everyday sexual practice, I've included a link down below where you can download a breathwork practice and get started at home today. It's absolutely totally free. I also encourage you to head on over to laylamartin.com, check out some of my offerings, enter your email address if you want to stay connected by email, which is one of the most powerful spaces in which I share live trainings and all kinds of content that I don't share here on YouTube. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and have the most spectacular time in subspace.